And I'm recording you. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Cool. Hello. Thank you for coming. We're going to give it a minute for people to funnel in, and I'm going to try to put this on Facebook quick. And if I can't, I'll just put the recording on there. Hey, look at it. It gets easier with time.
No kidding. All right, so when you're looking at my screen, do you see you?
I do see me.
You see you?
Yeah, but I'm going to turn my video off in a second
I'll
here.
just do that and keep it little. Keep it little. Over here, just in case something exciting happens.
Okay, perfect.
And my camera's on still, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I got
Whenever I hand it over to you, feel free if you want to keep it on or turn it off. That's up to you. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to get going.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. My name is Danielle Angelari, and I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Northern Illinois, which is an affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness that serves Winnebago, Boone, Stevenson, and Joe Daviess counties. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. Before introducing our guests today, I'd like to make you aware of some of our upcoming events. Beginning April 25th, if you know of any Spanish-speaking adults who are caring for a loved one living with a mental illness, our family-to-family class in Spanish is beginning April 25th through June 13th. So please know that there's registration on our website for that. Beginning May 1st, to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, NAMI Northern Illinois has created a 31-day mental health challenge. This is a series of daily tasks to bring your brain health to the forefront of your thoughts. We'll be challenging individuals through our social media channels and our newsletter recipients to tag along. Tuesday, May 10th at 5:30 p.m. is our annual membership meeting at Stepping Stones of Rockford. We'll be voting on our board of director nominees. Following the vote, we will hold a presentation on teen mental health. During this presentation, you will gain insights into the mind and the worlds of the modern day teenager. This meeting is also open to everyone, even if you're not a member. And finally, Monday, June 6th at Forest Hills Country Club, we'll be hosting our annual event, Mulligans for Mental Illness. There are still sponsorship opportunities as well as spots for golfers and after hours event. So this is your invite to join us. And I will follow up with you all in an email about the events that I just mentioned, as well as the recording to this. But without further ado, I am joined this afternoon by my friend Donna Addison. Donna is a licensed clinical professional counselor and board certified registered art therapist. She has worked in the community worked in community health for 30 years. She is a CARF surveyor and adjunct professor at Rockford University. She currently works as development manager at Stepping Stones of Rockford. And this afternoon, Donna will provide us all with a better understanding of the LGBTQ plus community as a whole, but specifically mental health care access and treatment in this community. As for audience questions, you'll notice this is a webinar style meeting, so you don't have access to video or camera, but please do ask questions in the Q&A portion or the chat feature. We'll facilitate those at the end. And Donna, I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Well, thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to do this. And Danielle, if you can make my video go away, that'd be great. Otherwise, people are just gonna have to look at me. It is what it is.
Turn it off for you.
Thank you. And hopefully you can see my screen. As Danielle said, that I'm Donna Addison. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I have a horrible cold today. So I will apologize in advance for sounding clogged and nasally, and hopefully won't be sneezing and wheezing. Usually I love to be in person to do presentations. I think it goes much better. However, in my case right now, I'm glad I'm not with you because I'd have a mask and staying far away and be in a little bubble. So, and as Danielle said, I am a certified registered art therapist and counselor in the mental health field. But I think more importantly for today is that I've been I have counseled people, and I call it the on the rainbow, and it just makes it easier than saying LGBTQ plus. It is not disrespectful. I mean no disrespect by using, if I say on the rainbow or under the rainbow. It's just an easier way to say and not miss somebody in that list. I mean, it's so important, and I don't want to do that to anyone. So please understand that if I use on the rainbow, it is not disrespectful. It's out of convenience and to respect the whole spectrum. I am an advocate for those on the rainbow and those with mental illness. I have lived experience. I love that phrase. Instead of saying other things, they say you have lived experience. And that just means that I've been a counselor and an art therapist for people who happen to be on the rainbow and also in mental health treatment. I personally have been in counseling as a person of the community, and I've been part of the whole thing. So I have a view of, what happens within the community, what happens when you show up for counseling, and what can I do as a professional to make this the best I can. I looked up last night, I was studying for this, believe it or not, and I noticed, excuse me, I wrote a book. Well, I wrote a chapter in a book, and it is about 25 years ago. And I read it, and unfortunately, so much of it still applies. And that made me really sad. I would hope by now there would be things we weren't arguing about, talking about, just that kind of stuff. So in that case, it was very disheartening. But in other ways, things have changed immensely, and it is amazing to see what's happened. So as you're listening to me, you have to know I'm old school. I'm from the day of AIDS activism. I was all about silence equal death movement. It was totally legal to fire somebody for being on the rainbow spectrum. In fact, at one of my jobs, I was told I was too gay. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, you're too gay. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And they're like, you're too gay. And that's all they would say. And they could have totally and legally fired me for being gay at that point. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I've been spit on, I've been threatened, I've gone to parades. So I have had some luxurious activity in my day. And despite the, I can't even say wife. I feel terrible. I mean, that's kind of the old school end of the boomers kind of thing. I am married. I happen to be married to a woman. And I always say, well, here's my gal pal. And it's like, wait, well, what do you mean? She's your wife. And I'm like, oh, I can't say that. So I am working on that. But that's just because of my background. And I never even imagined that marriage would be possible. So this is a huge stretch. So I gotta call her my wife. I come from the day of when we said homosexual. As a matter of fact, one of the articles I did write was gay-friendly art therapy for the homosexual client. And I just laugh when I read that. I'm like, oh my goodness. So this kind of gives you an idea of who I am and where I've come from. And then my guest today is the Genderbread person, which is the journey we're going on. Genderbread was born circa 2005. And he is not, well, he, she, they. Genderbread doesn't have a gender as far as I know. So we're going to go with they. They were born in about 2005. They are not copyrighted, which is awesome because that means this can be used by anyone as a learning tool. Genderbread is on version 4.0, and they're here to teach concepts and to bust stigma. And I want to tell you they are friends with the gender unicorn, and that's going to make sense in a minute. Excuse me. Oh, this cold. I got through the whole pandemic without getting any illness whatsoever. And now I get a cold. So, oh well, I apologize ahead of time if I snort, sneeze. Here we go. Sam Killerman is who technically, I'm going to say invented, for a lack of a better word, the genderbread person. And like I said, 2005. Now I want to have a little disclaimer because there is quite the contention with the gender unicorn versus the genderbread person. Now you would think, wait, we first thought, I was like, wait, what are you talking about? But the genderbread person came first, and that was in like 2005. And then the gender unicorn came along probably around 2011. I don't want to misrepresent that. I think it was 2011. And that was by a group of trans student educational resources. So they came up with a little bit different than the genderbread person, very similar in the understanding of what they're trying to explain. But the trans students, they look to and this is their words, more accurately portray the distinction between gender, sex assigned at birth, and sexuality. They didn't feel that the genderbread person did a good job of capturing that. So, and it's awesome. The Trans Student Educational Resources was created, but they were two trans women who were 16 years old. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And it is the only national organization run by young transgender people. So they also encourage people to share and print and enjoy these, posters, information, the little unicorn. So the beauty of all the things that I have access to are the same things you have access to, and they are free for the taking. Great stuff. All you got to do is Google, go to the Google, as some people say, and you just Google gender unicorn or genderbread person, and you will get the information that you need. Very exciting. I love them both. I feel sad that, Gender Unicorn felt sad that he, she, they, them were not a part of this. So they're both there together today. So the official objectives are what were posted, and hopefully you're going to gain some understanding about the community, the rainbow community, how those people who happen to be in that community have mental illness and fit within this community. So someone like me, I identify as gay or lesbian, whatever you want to call me. I happen to have a diagnosis of mental illness. They are two separate and distinct things for me. So I'm hoping I can help people understand that there's a difference between I am not gay because I'm mentally ill. Okay, that's one of the biggest takeaways I hope you can gain from this presentation. I also hope that I can explain why coming out with these, I'm going to call them clients, for lack of a better word. It's what we call them at Stepping Stones. So I'm going to go with it. So somebody who's on the rainbow and they happen to be diagnosed with a mental illness, coming out may be different for that person. So it's just kind of looking at that quickly, creating an affirming environment. And this is particularly important, as far as I'm concerned, to the mental health providers in our community. We have a long way to go. We've come a long way. But you have to remember, when I was told I was too gay, I was working on a mental health place. So you would think that a mental health provider would have had at least, I don't want to say, I'm going to say at least be accepting of diversity, and that was not the case. So I'm hoping that as you as a provider can really grab onto that and say, hey, how can I support this person who's here for mental health treatment and may or may not have something to do with sexual orientation or gender identity. It may not have anything to do with why they're there. So it's just kind of, educating all of ourselves, and then knowing the difference between biological sex, gender identity, gender expression, attraction, romantic, attraction. So, and to see how that goes in life, and man, that hurts my head. I'm telling you what, I'm learning just as much as you are as I take this journey. And to make sure I'm doing the best I can as a clinician to serve the people in the most compassionate, appropriate way. So really, the unofficial objective to this whole thing is why. Why is any of this important? Why does any of this matter? Why should you care? I mean, maybe you think, well, nobody cares about a pronoun. This doesn't apply to me. I don't know anyone who's on the spectrum of rainbowness. Everyone I know who's mentally ill, who's gay, is mentally ill. So, it must be together. And I hope that you can understand these topics do matter, and that you could save a life, and that because it shows respect to the person of who they are, because it's hard to be vulnerable. So if someone comes in for mental health treatment and they're there for something other than that has nothing to do with sexuality, gender identity, nothing that they're having anxiety related to, general anxiety disorder, which really has nothing to do with their sexual orientation. Well, I want to still know and be respectful. I want to know their pronoun so I can show respect to them. And this is really hard, to be vulnerable. I don't know if you've ever gone to treatment or you're in treatment now. It can be really hard to be authentic. And unless you're authentic, that treatment is going to be, it's not going to be the best it could be, because that's the whole point. You want to be vulnerable. You want to be in a safe environment. And a safe environment includes having a therapist, a provider, a psychiatrist that is educated on these topics. So I hope people take that into consideration. It doesn't mean you agree. I mean, I can't make you believe something. Nobody can make you believe something. So I'm hoping it just shows respect and not just tolerance, but you really subscribe to this. I'm going to be here and now in this moment, non-judgmental, while this person shares all this information with me, being authentic and vulnerable. So just like that sums it up, it matters at home, at the workplace, in the counselor's office, and in life. I have to say, I have seen a psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist, well, I've seen several doctors, but one in particular, I was going for something nothing to do with being gay, nothing. It wasn't even on the radar. I didn't even say anything about it. I had a really big other problems to deal with. And once I'm going to call it stabilized, the psychiatrist went a whole nother way and decided he was going to save me from being gay. And I'm like, no, wait, no, I'm here for this, this, and this. This is not, this gay thing's not a problem. And the psychiatrist begged to differ and was very clear that I was going to hell because I was gay and that I had the capacity to change. And if I chose to change, not only would I go to heaven, I probably wouldn't be so mentally ill. Great, huh? So here's my disclaimers. This is very simplified today. We could go on for an entire semester about all these topics. I hope to do not a disservice to these topics because they're simple, but they're complex. And so I'm hoping this very simplified presentation will engage you in thought of, I want to learn more about this, or I never thought about that, or gosh, now I got to rethink what's in my waiting room. This is my personal journey. It's not everyone's journey. I truly subscribe to being on the rainbow is not a mental illness. I hope you do too. I believe pronouns matter. I'm having a hard time with pronouns, just as I try to use they instead of he, she. It's something new to someone of my generation. And it's out of respect and the right thing to do, as far as I'm concerned, to learn about using the correct pronouns. And I'm here to just give a disclaimer that if you are here learning about conversion or reparative therapy, I am not your person. I do not believe that is possible. God love anyone who it works for. I did everything possible not to be gay. And I'll tell you what, I'm still gay. So I'm very skeptical about it. And I think it's much more harmful than helpful. I can't prove that. I can't, change your mind about that, but I hope you'll have an open mind, just like I try to have an open mind and learn more about those approaches to understand why they are employed even in this day and age. Excuse me, like I said up there, I'm going to be using, sometimes I'll use the letters, but usually I'll use rainbow. This presentation is very light on stats. I could have went into great details about stats, but I'm like, first, I don't have time. And second, you can use stats the way you want to. I mean, I can turn a stat to say what I need. And that's, we'll get to that in a second. But so I'd rather focus on Genderbread than stats. I don't have time to talk about the impact of social media on this whole topic, let alone just the gender part of the Genderbread. I might get this wrong. And I love being wrong because that means I get a chance to learn. So at the end of this, if we have time, I would love people to ask questions. I would love people to challenge me. I would love people to tell me I'm wrong because I need to learn too. So, excuse me. Please do keep track and say, oh, this lady's, she don't know what she's talking about. And that's okay, because I'm one person on one journey with a bunch of letters after my name, and that doesn't mean I know everything. Matter of fact, I know very little. And I love to learn, and I want to learn along with you. And like I said about stats, here you go. Very few stats included. They are misused. They don't tell the whole story. It depends on who's presenting the stats. So if I go to one site, it said LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to consider suicide. And transgender are 4 times likely than cisgender individuals. So those are people whose gender identity corresponds with their birth sex. So there's a word out there, cisgender. That there are so many, so many points or so many percentages more to try suicide, attempt suicide, complete suicide, or successful suicide, if that's what you prefer. Yeah, but you look somewhere else and the numbers are, nobody's doing this. These people aren't even a problem. They're just doing these things for attention because they learned it on social media. I mean, how horrible is that? But it's true. I mean, you can look at this from many sides, and I always try to keep that non-judgmental stance, even when I'm like, oh no, I can't go here. But it's my human beingness to try and understand what are they saying and where are they getting this, where are they coming from? So maybe I can educate them, maybe they're going to educate me. So legal issues are also another thing about statistics. There's all sorts of things about how many people with who identify on the rainbow are sexually assaulted, how many are arrested for something or another. So it is still legal to be fired, I'm guessing in 30 states, maybe a few more. And with the current environment, it's really hard to know what's going to happen. I was so excited to get married because I never in a million years thought I would ever have the chance to be married. And it was so exciting. But in the last few years, I started to get nervous because of the rhetoric going on in the world. And we went and got this giant will trust. We have this document that's like an old school encyclopedia. And we got that because we wanted to make sure if anything happened, neither one of our families, not that they would, but no one could come back and say they weren't married, this is ours, we're taking, and then just in general with the world, saying that we couldn't have each other's stuff, that we'd have to go, it should be just as if we were in a heterosexual relationship. So we took a lot of time and money to make sure all of our assets and our whole lives are safe or safer. There's also the concept of dual alienation, and this would be a very interesting statistic, but that's just when, if you belong to more than one marginalized group. So here you are, you belong on the rainbow, you have a mental illness, and then what if you have, we're considering race, socioeconomic, ability, all those things play into it too. So you can have several different kinds of alienations, and the more marginalized you are, the more cumulative and complex this becomes. So this is really a deep, deep, deep topic. And we could, like I said, I could go on for days. I love to talk and I love to learn and I love to teach. So we have mental illness in the rainbow. And to me, my question for you is, what does mental illness have to do with the Genderbread journey, if anything? And I wish we were standing together, because this is when I would say, you tell me. And I'm going to tell you what I think, but I want to know what you think. So when I'm looking at this, I'm saying that being on the rainbow is absolutely not a mental illness. That's not to say that people on the rainbow don't have mental illnesses. It's just to say the letters, the LGBTQ plus community, that is not a mental illness. And it wasn't until very recently, well, recently to me, it's old school to the old, the Generation Z doesn't know what to do with me. So if you're Gen Z, please cut me some slack. I'm doing the best I can. But, we're talking about the DSM-4, the Bible of diagnosing people with mental illness and various forms of sexual orientations and things like that were still included and were considered diagnoses. So we've really, thankfully to me, moved away from that. And so I'm looking at these are two very distinct things, but sometimes they go hand in hand, meaning the person has these two items, I'm going to say, these two items that they're dealing with at the same time. Now, this is it. I'm telling you again that I do not believe sexual orientation equates with mental illness. I do not equate transgender with mental illness. And I see that someone in the community seeking treatment, they may or may not be there for anything related to the LGBTQ plus community. So again, we have to, as clinicians, we have to figure out, why is this person here, which is what we do anyway. And then what else is going on in this picture that I can be supporting? So, you know, if you're going to invite somebody in for a family session, it's good to know who's coming and to be, you know, educated on what might transpire. It should be the same. There should be no, oh my God, what am I going to do? But you want to make sure you're the most educated possible. And I would do the same, even though I'm on that spectrum of the rainbow. When you are not of the rainbow, you might be coming at this from a heteronormative view. It means the world is very heterosexual. When you see TV, it's basically a bunch of heterosexual people. Now, this has changed a lot. I mean, it's been a little overwhelmingly changed in the last couple of years. I mean, even Cheerio commercials had two guys and a kid on it. So I'm like, wow, okay, we're coming somewhere. But we as a global, we tend to come at the world from a heteronormative place. So if we're a clinician who happens to be straight, I'm going to use that word, we may come from that assumption that everyone else is straight too. And, or there's other assumptions too. The diagnoses you've already talked about, the treatment approach, you're still using all the same things, but you might have additional items to consider. Like I just said, what if somebody has, you know, a husband and they want both to come together and you had no idea this even existed in the world, let alone now you're going to meet these two people. So it's not foreign. I know I sound old when I say this, but trust me, where I come from, all this stuff really did matter and did happen. So I'm a little jaded, and I'm always hoping people my age or surrounding age will say that we can all come along and learn these things, because it's fun. It really is fun. And I just hope who we are, we can help each other to learn. You know, even in today's world, the LGBTQ, they still face discrimination, there's prejudice, there's denial of civil rights, there's human rights, there's harassment, there's family rejection. I mean, all these things still happen. And anyone who says they don't, God love you, I want to live with you, because I know that even in today's society, I see these things and I experience these things. I'm always just dumbfounded sometimes when people will say something to me and I'm like, are you kidding? Okay, great. I don't even know what to do with that. So one of the things that might happen during a session or treatment, and if you're the client, this applies all around, whether you're the client, whether you're the clinician, whether you're the support, these are the kind of things that are coming into play when you're in therapy, you happen to be on the rainbow and you're going for some kind of mental health treatment. You want to find somewhere to go that they're not going to be judgmental of you, and they're not going to have those assumptions, and they are going to respect you. And you want them not to want to cure me, because you know, if you show up at a clinician and that person is very traditionally religious, I'm going to say that, I'm not, I'm saying very, very strict, very homosexuality is wrong, it can be cured if you prayed hard enough. And if I went to that person, I'd be running out the door before they got to the word cure, I'd be in my car driving away. You have to find somebody who is going to support you as you come out. Coming out is hard. And maybe in today's age and day, it's not, but I still think it is. I know people are still disowned. I know people have trouble on the job. All those things, people are experiencing violence. They're going to treatment for something else, and they're being told they need to change their sexual orientation. So we want to make sure as clinicians and as clients, we want to find what we need. And there's nothing wrong to going to finding another therapist or another psychiatrist, or maybe just another person who's going to support me. I will say that there's lots of religious communities that are totally accepting. And so religion isn't the whole picture here. So please don't hear that wrong. There are so many supportive religious communities. And if you can find that, and those are, when I want to say your people, well, my gosh, how could it be any better? So you want to find what works for you so you can come out and be your authentic self. You can say whatever it is, whatever words or pronouns or they're labels. I'm going to call them labels, because that's what society does. They put labels on everything. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm gay or lesbian, and I just want you to know that, because I'm here for therapy, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here for this. So coming out, then I'm like, oh my God, what if they don't like me anymore? What if now they don't hear anything else? So we want to set those people up to feel accepted. And some ways that we forget about this as clinicians, we send a huge, huge message in our waiting rooms, in our social media posts, on our websites, questions on our forms, the questions we ask. I mean, if I go into somebody's waiting room, there's going to be like fishing and stream, and there's going to be time, and there might be country living, but I'm not going to see The Advocate, which is a traditional publication for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender plus community. It's just not going to be seen. It's not going to be there. One of the things I did when I was working with a different agency, I worked to do that, to make sure there was a good representation, and good being a lack of a better word, good representation of magazines that would attract more people than just the finch, the people going fishing and the people making bouquets. So, and what's on social media? Recently, I put on that we are a safe zone. Well, that's a great thing to have on your door. If whether you're a teacher, you're a clinician, whether you're some kind of, maybe you're a clergy, to have that little sticker that says safe zone, that speaks volumes, because then someone who's looking to talk can find you and know, hey, I can be safe in here and share my story or talk about what's going on without having that judgment. So do take a look for those safe zone stickers. You can also just stick a rainbow on your door, and that's a pretty big sign too. I tell you what, whenever I'm going out shopping and I'm walking down the street, and if I see the rainbow flag, it just makes me smile. Doesn't mean they have any better items for sale, but it makes me smile that they've got that flying. And again, a great way to show acceptance is to not blame mental illness on the rainbow. So here we go. Here is my little genderbread person, and he's friends. Now, don't forget, he's friends with the gender unicorn. Don't get excited. And we're going to read this, and we're going to talk about it. And I tell you what, these are tough things to grasp and remember, even though they're simple, and it does take time to truly understand. And so the goal is so you can understand a little better, or maybe more in depth, or even for the first time, even consider what's the difference between, identity and sexual orientation. Isn't sexual orientation and identity and gender all the same? What do you mean gender expression? So just a really quick overview about what's going on. Well, here's my little friend Genderbread, and you can see it's got all sorts of little things. You're going, oh my gosh, womanness, manness, what is this? So we're going to break it down, but it's person's sexual orientation doesn't determine their gender expression, and their gender expression doesn't determine their gender identity, and their gender identity doesn't determine their biological sex. So there's a lot going on here. And for the biggest takeaway from me is the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation is the difference between who you are and whom you love. So there's the slide. That's the slide I would hang up on my wall if I had a choice of one slide in this whole thing. It's who you are and whom you love. That hopefully breaks it down a little easier. Now, this used to be just called gender, and now it's more referred to sex assigned at birth. And that one fancy little symbol there, you can see the male sign, the female sign, and then they're intersected, the intersex sign. So when you think of the sex assigned at birth, you probably think of male and female. And you may think of male, female, or intersex. So there are some people that are born with either indistinguishable or a combination of anatomy. And so the doctor there gets to decide, am I going to put male or female on this birth certificate? So someone could be born with male like penis and scrotum, yet still have reproductive system of a female within the body. And so that's called, considered intersexed. Gender, it's your feelings, your attitudes, your behavior about the cultural, associates of your person's biological sex. So are they the same? Technically, no, but for most intensive purposes, sex assigned at birth and gender are going to be very close in definition. If anyone else has something good to say about that, please do. It's I'm talking about the gender normative thing and not the gender non-conformative. Here's gender identity. So this is your internal self of being male, female, neither of these, or both of these, or another gender. And it's all about how you think about yourself. And it's your internal interpretation of, what are my hormones doing? What am I doing? What fits me better? Who am I? What rings true to me? So I might identify more as a woman. I might identify more as a man. I might interpret myself somewhere in between. And this is not black and white. It's the rainbow colors, really, but the whole thing is gray. And it's, again, you are respecting the person's view and belief of who they are and how they identify. It's so important that we honor people where they are. I mean, just think about the Me Too movement. For so long, all this stuff was going on, and it was like, oh yeah, it's happening, or it's not that bad, or we're sleeping under the rug. And then when it became the Me Too movement, people were like, yeah, this really does matter. This matters what's happening in the world. So that movement kind of gives you that flavor of, we want to honor people this way too. We want to say, yes, we see you. Yes, we honor your identity. So it's just one of those things that it's just a wonderful thing in life when we can be with each other and accept each other for who we are. Now, for someone who's transgender, and please don't say transgendered, it's transgender. Those people, it's so funny, those people, I meant people who happen to be transgender, they might have their gender identity and sex assigned at birth aren't the same. So they feel conflicted about this whole thing because it's not the same. They didn't just make this up. They do not feel that their identity and their sex assigned at birth match. So we have to just remember, don't use transgendered. It's a minor thing, but it really isn't when it comes to respecting other people. Just like pronouns, we want to do the best we can. Sexual orientation is probably, if everyone's in the room going, yay, this is what I at least know. I know what this is. So it's super simple. Man and woman, heterosexual. You're straight. And if you're a man who's attracted to a man and you're in a relationship with another man, you're considered gay. And if you're a man who's attracted to men and women, you're considered bisexual. And if you're a woman in a relationship with a woman and you're attracted to that woman, you are considered lesbian. Now, that's all fine and good, but it's not that black and white. Matter of fact, I'm sure the majority of you have heard of Kinsey and the Kinsey scale. And it's a 0 to 6 scale. And so 0 is you are completely and totally and exclusively heterosexual. There's nothing more about you than heterosexual. And a 6 would be exclusively homosexual. And I love the word homosexual because it sounds so old school, doesn't it? Hi, I'm a homosexual. I mean, who says that? I do. Okay, anyway. So a lot of people are on that range between 0 and 6. And it doesn't mean you're gay, or it just means you're on the spectrum. And people do move on the spectrum, and that's okay. So wherever you are, respect yourself, respect each other. And, there's so many genders, and there's so many gender identities, and there's so many sexual orientations. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm keeping this super simple. And I will keep saying it. I mean, no disrespect by doing this. It's just the time constraints and the intensity of the topics which we really could delve into. So there I am, happy Pride. Here we go with gender expression. This is a little easier if you think about it. This is how I look and express myself. So think about it being maybe your clothes, your physical manifestation. And it's something that can change. I mean, I put myself in a little tux here, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to be a man. I've never wanted to be a man. No offense to men. I've never wanted that. But I do love a good tux. So, I mean, you look great. I mean, why wouldn't you want to look great? So that doesn't mean anything except for that day I identified my expression was with a more masculine view of my clothing. But again, it doesn't mean that's my identity, it's my expression. And just like the gentleman on the left, I don't know his pronouns. They may be they, it might be he might be she. So I'm gonna go with they. And from, I don't remember the name of the show. It used to be Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, but it's something Queer Eye, I think, still. And this person is phenomenal and dresses in various different ways. And a lot of times wears, skirts, but that's just his expression, her expression, their expression. So it just depends on the day and the person, and to really just be you. Now, this one always cracks me up. It's because there's a difference with the genderbread and the unicorn saying attraction can be sexual or romantic. And I was like, wait, how can those be different? Aren't those the same? That can't be right. But actually, when I thought about it and read about it and asked questions, I was like, yeah, I guess I get that. And so sexually attracted to is exactly that. Who am I sexually attracted to? So what's the group of people or genders I am sexually attracted to? And the other view of is romantically attracted to. So who am I romantically or maybe emotionally attracted to? And that's the romance, but maybe not sexually attracted. So I know I'm doing a really bad job of explaining that, but if you think about it, it actually makes sense. You can be sexually attracted to somebody and really not romantically care about them whatsoever. And I would assume it could be the same way. I haven't thought about that. I always think it's easier to think about being sexually attractive, but not romantically. But I know it goes both ways. Now I have this video, which we're gonna, I got questions. I love this. Oh, Danielle, I hope you're paying attention.
I am. Do you want me to read them to you?
Yes. These poor people are just listening to me babble.
Okay. Tiffany wanted to say that for Jonathan Van Ness from the picture you just showed.
Yeah.
Pronouns are they.
Thank you.
And then another question says, how do you ask someone in a respectful manner what their child's preferred pronouns are?
Oh, yes.
And it says, I work with parents and often have to ask what pronouns their child prefers, and they seem extremely confused. I want to be respectful to each child's pronouns, but the parents seem very confused. Oh,
well, you are right on schedule for this part of the presentation as we roll towards the end. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. You may not be, but I'm having a great time. Pronouns are hard for me because it's a new concept. It's not that I don't understand them, and it's not that I don't respect them. It's just so foreign to me, and I want so hard to get it right. And you can hear just by my talking today, I don't get it right. And I'm working so hard on that because I find that very, very important. This video, I will send the link to whoever wants it. I'm not going to try and play it because I got everything all screwed up when I was practicing. The sound was blasting and I was running around and 3 times the video, so forget it. That's a very helpful video to this question. And I'm always going to go with what the client wants and what the client says. And I don't care if the client one day comes in and says, my pronoun today is he. And next week they come in, they say, today my pronoun is she. Who cares? I'm going to meet them where they are. I don't think they're confused. I don't think this is a bad thing or a good thing. I think I'm just going to be non-judgmental and be where the client is. I mean, isn't that the point? Now, that's really hard if you got, especially working with children and you've got parental involvement or guardian involvement. If they're not educated, that's one thing. Maybe they just don't understand the whole pronoun thing. I mean, I wouldn't have known what to do with this. I would have been like, what do you mean you're identifying by he? You're biologically a girl. What are you talking about? So asking questions, trying to educate the parents, kind of that, it's almost like casual, just kind of talking about it. And you just want to be open and explain and have the child explain it too, if they can. If they're young, how can a 6-year-old explain that? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but maybe a assigned at birth female says, I'm a he, I want to be called him, he, you go with it. I don't think that's a big hurdle in life, but I think that it is really hard for parents in general. I mean, I don't know, my mother might be on this call right now and she would have to ask what it was like to have a gay daughter who got married to a man, a gay daughter who got divorced from a man and then got married to a woman. I mean, she would be more, I'd love to hear what she thinks about pronouns and what she would do if one of her grandchildren came to her and said, my pronouns are he, him. It's really hard to ask people their pronouns, and that's one of the things that this video shows. So please do watch it. I'll send the link, because they're like, how do you know somebody's video? I mean, how do you know somebody's gender? How do you know somebody's pronoun? How do you know they're it's like you have to ask. And no, you're probably not gonna, in your first session, hi, who are you? Gender, go through the list, but you can easily say, okay, I see your name. Is this, what pronouns do you use? And we're trying to incorporate that at where I work, putting it on the first day nameplates for the newbies, for the new employees, the new hires during onboarding. Not only does that show respect if anyone does identify with pronouns of which we might not have known, it also sends that message of, yes, we are honoring everyone for where they are. So I know that doesn't answer the question fully, but I would just be as transparent as possible. Education as best you can. There's a ton of stuff on the internet. Please don't use Wiki. You can find a lot better, from the Human Rights Campaign to the Trevor Project. We've got some local things here that are phenomenal. We are really fortunate in Rockford to have some great resources, of which I need to give those links also. So it's kind of supporting the parents where they are, where you're supporting the child where they are. And it's okay to be confused, because guess what? It's confusing, but life is confusing. So this just goes along with life. I hope that helps a little. Some of the pronouns, if I see there's another question, just so you can see, this hurts my head. As someone, a boomer, looks at this and goes, oh my. But you got she, he, they, and Z. And sometimes people are using pronouns that aren't the ones that we traditionally think of, he, she, or they. So there's a whole nother list. You could go on for days with this. And the bottom line is, you want to respect the person for what they identify as their pronoun. So you have to ask. And sometimes it's going to feel really bizarre to ask. Other times it's going to be really easy and say, okay, I'm going to make sure I respect you. Your name is, how do you spell that? How do you say it? And what are your preferred pronouns? Just kind of, it becomes easier the more you ask. I have been called sir more times than I'd like to say. And, a lot of it is just because I have short hair. I dress, I'm kind of a slob, but I tend to wear just boring, kind of neutral clothes. I'm not going to win a feminine award. So but I'm still she, her, hers. But somebody might be thinking, oh, is she a he, him, his? I need to know. So you do want to ask. What's going on? And my question's up that.
Yeah, so what or how do you tell parents that there's nothing mentally wrong with their child? They just love who they love.
Oh, that's so nice. I love the way they just said that. I mean, yes, I'm smiling because this is a profound question. And it's kind of like you want to help the parents accept their child for who they are, where they are. But sometimes that doesn't happen right away, especially after coming out. They just can't, parents, whoever they are, might have a really hard time with this. And so it's like calling the parents in, and whether the client who's a child or adolescent, getting their permission, of course, to say, I'd like, do you want to sit down and have this conversation with your parents? If they don't, they're like, hey, go ahead, talk to them. Good for you. And sit down and just kind of chat with the parents. They might be well suited for PFLAG. So if someone's having a really hard time and you say, really, your child is just being who he is. And, here's some resources that might help you identify where your child is and find people who can understand and listen to you also, because we all need somebody to listen to us. And that's one of the reasons PFLAG, Friends of Lesbians and Gays, and that's so sad. It's longer now, but we do have a chapter here in Rockford, and that's a great resource, there's a couple of other resources that you can find other people as parents to talk to, and I think that's huge. I think there's less of a stigma these days to talking about your child being lesbian or gay or somewhere on the spectrum. So finding those people is really important. I don't know. I think my mother talked to my aunt, but I can't guarantee that. But I know she had to talk to somebody because, back in the day, we didn't have a lot of out of the closet homosexuals running around. So, and there wouldn't have been any PFLAGs. So she would have had to talk to a relative. So just finding somebody that you can talk to and reassuring them, your child is fine. Your child is great. Your child is a wonderful human being. Let's embrace your child for who they are right now. And let's help that child stay alive, stay brave, stay happy, and feel love, not hatred and judgment. And just all those negative things you could come up with. It's hard. I'm telling you what, I know it's hard. But I hope that, and if you're a counselor or a professional clinician, this is part of what you do for a living. So hopefully it gets easier. Talking to people, listening, giving them that empathy, asking those open questions to find out maybe, hey, what's going on? Where is this coming from? How can I help you? What are your fears? So if you can talk to that parent or that person who's having concern to use those therapeutic tools. I mean, I think that's fabulous. That would be my go-to. I'd be using empathy, open questions, reflective, all the stuff leaning forward, but I would never say, and how does that make you feel? Please don't say that. Okay. What do you got also? I see more.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I put the link to the local PFLAG chapter and Lilium Foundation in the chat too. But another question, what is the Z pronoun? What does that stand for?
That's just, that sounds so horrible that I just said that, but I'm going to use it anyway. It's just another pronoun that some people are like, I don't identify as those other things. I don't identify as a she. I don't identify as a he or a they. So this is just another word that has been created that kind of gives people another choice of a pronoun, Z, her, Z. I can, it's so hard. I'm always like herself, his self, Z self. But Z is speaking. And this is, to me, not as common, but let me tell you what, that's because I'm old and not hanging around with people that, Gen Z's got me going on. They gotta go, they know what they're doing. I really believe they do. I really think we can learn from them. they could do this presentation 1,000,000% better than I can because of this kind of thing. So it's just another alternative for different pronouns.
Thank you. I have one more question and a bunch of thank yous in the chat.
Yay.
Do you have any advice for helping a young adult who is not accepted by their family deal with the depression that comes along with being on the rainbow?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that's a fabulous question. Thank you, Willard. Because this is something that does happen. And this is a time that depression plus, you know, coming out, rejection, whatever it might be, they do tie together because you're having both and they're interconnected. So anything you could do to support that person and to help that person find other support too. We used to have a lot more groups in Rockford for, we used to have a group called Diversity, and we had the Diversity Teens and the HIV Prevention Project. And we just let teens come and hang out, and we provided a safe space. It's finding that safe space is the key. So you can be who you are and let that kind of those feelings of depression go. If it's major depression and you need medication and this and that, well, going to a safe space isn't going to address all those things. But if it's, you know, if it's more of an adjustment disorder due to having issues of being rejected or disowned, then, you know, finding your people, I think that's huge. Finding your people. That is the number one thing that helped me, is that I still see there's a core group, I'm going to say 30, that those are my family. And that's no offense to my family. Obviously, I love them, but it's those were my people, and they made my life just so much easier because they understood, they accepted me. And not all those people were gay or lesbian. People in my circle are also straight. And I think that's a funny thing to say, but I think it's important to point that out too, that the support system doesn't have to be a bunch of gay people walking down the street. I mean, you know what I mean? It's who are you comfortable with? Who do you trust? Who can you be authentic with? So, and I will look for some more links, and I'll put some links in the whatever that's called, Facebook thing. So you can do that. I also put up my email here that you can email me questions. I will send this little PowerPoint to you. I have lots of articles that, and Google is your friend. You just got to know what it's like statistics. You got to know what you're Googling. You got to look at it and go, yeah, this is somebody from Westboro Church, and I probably should look at something else. So, and the same thing goes for religion. Sometimes you got to find a different spiritual or religious person to be your support for the times you're being told you're going to hell, because that really kind of stinks. You get old like me, you don't care anymore. You're like, yeah, great, I'm going to hell. Good luck with that. So it does get easier. I know that's so cliche, but it does get easier too.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I'm happy to send anything that you have to the group that came today to their emails, as well as the recording, so y'all can watch this again if you'd like. Thank you, Donna. It was wonderful.
Oh, great. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and I just want people to be happy and be loved and be accepted and be alive. I want people to live.
Yeah, that's an awesome message to leave this on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you. And I'm waving goodbye, but you can't see me.
Yes, thank you. I hope you have a good Tuesday and rest of your week.
Happy Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.